These are difficult times for Europe's Commissioner for Economic and Monetary Affairs. Spain's Joaquin Almunia is being tested by this financial crisis, as are Europe's strict economic rules. In addition, EU member states are eager to assert their own strategies in the current financial climate.
Comisario, bienvenido en Euronews.
Muchas gracias por invitarme.
Una reacción a la decisión concertada por unos
The
cuantos
coordinated
bancos
decision
centrales,
taken by central banks, including the European Central Bank and the US Federal Reserve, to cut interest rates. What do you think this means for Europe and the rest of the world?
Financiera para Europa y para el mundo también.
Bueno, creo que esto supone, por un lado, un alivio.
Well, it's supposed to relieve the stress being felt in the financial markets, and I hope the markets will respond to the move positively. Moreover, the coordination among the world's most important central banks is good news. It's a good sign for the market and also a good example of governments improving their coordination.
Wouldn't it have been better, perhaps, to be proactive rather than reactive, to have acted before the crisis got to this point?
Dura y profunda de la crisis.
Si nos remontamos a las causas de la abundante liquidez que produjo.
There was a very low estimation of the real risks that pushed many investors to take chances beyond any reasonable level because of the low level of interest rates before 2007. At this stage in the crisis, the measures adopted by the central banks are supposed to relieve the market and ease the difficulties felt by the principal players.
Que los participantes en el mercado operen en unas condiciones menos difíciles.
Is a rate cut a good idea at the moment, considering the state of the global economy?
Hace falta recapitalizar instituciones financieras. Creo que eso es
At this stage, it's essential to undertake a recapitalization of the financial institutions
que dispongan del capital suficiente
to allow those entities that have enough capital to resume their normal credit operations.
Hay que conseguir crear confianza entre las instituciones financieras para que el mercado
It's also essential to create confidence among financial institutions to put the interbanking market back on track. Restoring confidence will lead to normalization.
One idea has been to recapitalize the banks by creating a common European fund. Is that a possibility?
There are proposals for coordinated action between European governments to create funds at national level. We discussed them at the last ECOFIN Council, but nobody has talked about a European fund.
But aren't some countries pushing for this?
Some people have interpreted the proposal made by the Netherlands and other governments as an attempt to create a centralized fund here in Brussels, but nobody made a proposal as such.
Would the creation of a single European fund with its own authority be a good idea?
Let's be clear. We have to be realistic. It's no time for utopia. Each country allotting public or private resources is the most realistic proposal. If it's coordinated, it will increase the confidence among financial institutions that operate in a single market, like the interbanking one.
And savers' deposits, what would you say to those people afraid of losing their money?
Nobody will lose their savings, really. There are some financial institutions that have a few problems, but thanks to public money or to the takeover of public and private institutions, nobody has lost their deposit.
Is there enough money to guarantee all savers' deposits at a national level?
There are enough instruments in place to avoid any financial institutions falling into a crisis like Lehman Brothers in the USA. In Europe, we don't want that scenario, and there won't be another Lehman Brothers case. There won't be a bank which will go bankrupt or disappear. That won't happen.
Why haven't the markets reacted more positively to the measures taken by the central banks around the world?
Los mercados han reaccionado con indiferencia a cada plan.
Lo que hay es una situación de profunda desconfianza.
There's a deep lack of confidence amongst financial institutions because of a lack of transparency. And every financial institution fears that the other banks that want to borrow their money are in a worse situation than themselves. Financial markets are built on confidence.
En particular, los mercados financieros funcionan en base a la confianza.
Do you expect finance to play less of a role in the future than it does now?
Lo que no necesitamos es que la pura
What we
lógica
don't
de las
need
operaciones
is for the
financieras
logic of
se desligue
financial
de la
activities
realidad
to lose contact
y
with
pierda
reality,
la conciencia
lose
del riesgo
perception
y
of the
pierda la
risks,
conciencia
and forget what
de
actually
quién es el
brings
que
in
realmente
capital
aporta
to
el
allow
capital
such
que permite
operations.
esas operaciones.
La intervención pública de la parte
Doesn't
de
the
los Estados
huge injection of money by member states jeopardize the European Stability Pact?
El Pacto de Estabilidad y Crecimiento está vivo, está funcionando.
The Stability
y va a
Pact is
seguir
alive and
funcionando.
working,
Lo que pasa
and
es
it
que cuando
continues to
revisamos el
work.
Pacto de Estabilidad
In 2005, when the Stability Pact was reformed, some flexibility was put in place in case of economic slowdowns. We didn't figure out then that we would have to go through such a difficult phase. Yet the flexibility will be useful, because I know that some public deficits will grow. In some cases it is already happening. But I can tell you that there is a general consensus on the need to stick to the rules of budgetary discipline set out in the Pact. It was reiterated in the last ECOFIN Council and also a few days ago at the Paris Summit by the heads of state and their governments.
Muchas gracias, comisario.
Muchas gracias.